Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first webinar of Agile Dynamics Tech. My name is Mariangel Garcia, and I'm very happy to be your host today and be sharing this conversation about emerging markets and blockchain technology with the amazing founding team of Agile Dynamics Tech. So welcome.
Thank you, Maria Angel. Yeah, so I guess I'll kick it off. My name is Paul Alovic. I'm one of the co-founders of Agile Dynamics Tech. This is a Web3 blockchain native advisory. Personally, I have been in the Middle East region for past 16 years. Been working with a large enterprise startups. It's a very specific scenario for the growth markets, where the government makes massive investments in billions of dollars to set up industry establishment projects, likes of Sadara Petrochemical, which was $24 billion startup JV between Aramco and Dow Chemical. More recently, I've been working with a nuclear program in Abu Dhabi, Emirates Nuclear Energy Corporation. And one thing that strings all these experiences together is that success comes only by managing the effectiveness of the organization. In other words, doing the things in the right way. So that's pretty much like, what my passion is and what brought me to Web3.
Perfect, thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Emilia Vukovic. I'm also one of the co-founders of Agile Dynamics Tech. I entered the world of cutting-edge technologies in 2017 when I was appointed to be the CEO of the Global Sun Foundation. After that, I worked as a business development manager for one Swiss accelerator and incubator, and we actually did one of the first STOs project in Europe. I fell in love in Web3. By education, I'm actually a doctor of medicine. I did my master's in healthcare management and computational finance, and I'm currently doing my PhD on the topic of usage of the blockchain in the healthcare system. I'm currently running Supercluster for Web3 and blockchain technologies, the first of its kind in Europe, and I'm the president of the Serbian Blockchain Initiative. And I've done various projects with my dear colleague who is going to tell you something about himself, Mr. Ivan.
Thank you, for organizing all of this. I have been a part of Agile Dynamics Tech also since the beginning as managing partner and co-founder. I've been building software products for the last 22 years, both as an engineer and later as a tech executive, and I have been a part of 6 different startup exits during this time period, which also then led me to doing a lot of work for big corporations also. I got into Web3 in 2015 and decided to make a permanent move to Web3 space in 2017. And during this time, I built a number of projects that were blockchain-based, including some very important protocols. I've been a part of the original team building Polygon network, and I have also been a part of the team that built Polygon Edge, Polygon's EVM client. During all of this, I became very enthusiastic about the future of the internet that we are going to be having with the multi-chain as such. And I believe that what we are doing as consultants through Agile Dynamic Tech is spearheading this in the right direction, and that we are able to help the companies we are working with in terms of enabling them to be one of the first users, but also builders in this space, which means that I'm very, very happy to see how the new internet shows in the emerging markets in this way.
Thank you so much, Paul, Emma, and Ivan. I have a quick question before we jump into the topic. What is the difference between Agile Dynamics Tech and other consultancies that are also looking for digital transformation of its clients?
So the whole idea is that Agile Dynamics Tech has been established on the back of successful practice of Agile Dynamics, which is a business architecture and strategy execution advisory. And over the time, we recognize there is a massive opportunity to start introducing a very specific set of solutions based on the blockchain, because this is, in our humble view, one of the most transformative technologies that offers a very strong infrastructure baseline that can be used for scaling in a digital transformation space. So the key difference is that Agile Dynamics Tech is a company that is solely focused on the blockchain and is actually built by the co-founders have a hands-on, pragmatic, practical experience.
There's a recent research made by Agile Dynamics about the relation of emerging markets and blockchain usage. And there comes the idea of creating a Layer 1 solution focused on these markets. So how does this idea it's created? Where does it come from?
There's a specific term that I like when we talk about the emerging markets and the new technology that we are introducing, and that's leapfrogging. That's basically an opportunity that in the markets where the infrastructure is not very well organized or it's not productive as it should be, there's an actual opportunity to bring the most innovative technology at the moment and the most advanced methods to develop it. And this is something that actually showed as a very successful strategy for developing nations. So in that sense, we were thinking about the usage of the blockchain and what's the biggest value it can bring. And as we know, it's an innovative protocol. It's a decentralized network. It gives us a lot of opportunity to build more trust and to build more accountability into the business that we are doing, and to give us more security. So in that manner, when we look at the emerging markets and their needs, we thought about what are all the points that with this technology could be improved. And especially from the side that we can see that there's a lot of still banking risks that are put in these departments, and that there are also a lot of usages that could be improved. So if we talk about blockchain from the standpoint of the supply chain, healthcare records, transparency in the banking or financial institutions, to give the opportunity to make more even remittance payments that are really important, because you have a lot of migrant workers who are sending the money to their home all of the time. And those transactions are usually very expensive or very slow. So just to start from those specific benefits, to think about somebody who has who is living an everyday life and has a lot of things that he would like to improve. Me personally, I think that blockchain can give a lot of benefits in that sense. So that was the first idea, just to start looking what's else out there that's not Europe, that's not US. For me, and I will be short. Sorry if it's just a topic that's close to my heart. We did one of the first Web3 Delights, and that's one of the events that's part of our ecosystem in Nigeria. And to be quite honest with you, we didn't expect much of it. We just wanted to see is there an interest about the Web3. At that first event, there was about 2,000 people that showed, and about as much online that were watching us. The thing that really stuck with me was, so our project manager, for example, was a lady with a baby on her back who was showing up to work every day because it was really important for them to have that event. We had people who texted us all the time who came from a different part of the town, or even different cities, or even different countries to see it. And it's like a 6-hour drive with the bus in endangered areas, but it's important for them to be part of the Web3 ecosystem and to learn something new. So I can say that from one side, the inspiration was everything that technology can bring, everything that blockchain can improve. And then from the other side, all of the hunger for education and for growth from these markets that we are talking about.
Thank you so much for mentioning Web3 Delight, because it is important to highlight that there are several blockchain products talking about solutions on these emerging markets, but there's a huge difference from offering solutions and understanding the dynamics of these markets and these users. So I would like to start my first questions directly to the topic of the webinar, which is Emerging Markets Unleashed, with you, Paul, because there's a word that I see a lot on the last research made by the Agile Dynamics, and it's sovereignty. How critical it is and how relevant it is to highlight sovereignty in this industry that is often talking about freedom and similar values.
Sure. So technology sovereignty is not a new concept. It's been around for a while now. Many nations have paid very close attention to it, and they made significant strides as well as investments in this direction. Long story short, the whole concept is based on the idea that technology sovereignty will ensure your innovation sovereignty that will ultimately lead to financial independence. In other words, if you don't build something yourself, it's very difficult for you to innovate. If you don't innovate, you will very likely end up using legacy technologies that will prevent you from generating the necessary uptake and securing your financial independence. So in our view, we believe that this is one of the greatest opportunities that blockchain offers due to its nature, that it's very cost effective. It doesn't require massive investments when it comes to building. It's also not as complex and sophisticated as some other technologies like, bioengineering or, for that matter, robotics. You could actually quite easily get into this space. So we believe that, that is a great opportunity and the use case for building a technology sovereignty.
Based on the experience that you had on previous events and also this connection with the community, it is known that in this industry there are a lot of educational resources. But what are you doing to increase these efforts and to make it easier for people who are really not interested into actually understanding, hey, what is the blockchain, what is cryptography, but at some point will be users?
From that perspective, we are trying actually to build a friendly Web3 ecosystem that everybody can approach from the best way it fits them. So for somebody, that's education through hubs, through grants, through motivating developers to build apps that are going to function on the blockchain. And I will leave Ivan to explain the technicality because he is the biggest expert in that part from us all. But so the idea is not just to build something that nobody's going to use. It's the idea to make the adoption first so that the users are our main focus and we can give them the opportunity to use it, as I say, in the manner it fits everybody. So one part of the organization is going to be through the hubs and through the grants. Then also we have Web3 Delight events that are educational. Also in the pipeline, we have a lot of master classes and educational systems we are going to make in the terms of short courses. And we have a gaming ecosystem also that's going with this. And it's all meant to be to make blockchain more accessible from different parties and shareholders. And then in the end, we are completely aware that for the big infrastructure to be built, we need a lot of different shareholders to come together and to align. So there's one part that's academia, and that's really important for us. So the word of blockchain is spread around. Then the other part is, of course, startups and systems and people who are building and who are using blockchain for their apps in the manner that it makes the more benefit for their business, of course. And then there's government, who needs to seize the opportunity of how can this be crucial for their citizens. So that's something that we are going to do, and I will leave Ivan now to tell you a little bit more about layer one and why is it special and what was the conclusion of our study.
Well, Paul mentioned the technology sovereignty. I believe that if we are talking about new ways of using the internet, we should also be thinking about how the internet is working today. And the internet today is actually a telecommunication network built of different internet autonomous zones. And we believe that this is a good way to think about the internet, because at the end of the day, even with blockchain working on the internet, we are still relying on TCP/IP and the underlying internet infrastructure. Blockchain made it very possible for individuals and corporations to gather data and to reuse it in many different ways for new business models. If countries are not going to be taking care of their own data using their own sovereign technology, they are going to be exploited very much like they are exploited today by Google, by Amazon, by Facebook, because those companies are simply using the current economic landscape of dealing with data on the internet to monetize the data of the citizens, of the users that are using their applications. And all of the laws being written today are trying to somehow limit that. When you look at GDPR, that is the general idea of GDPR, making it less possible for big corporations to just use someone else's data to both train their AI models or to basically use it for advertising. With the approach of having sovereign technology of your own country or of your own region, you are moving in the direction where you can have a gatekeeper for that, and you can either force taxes for stuff like this, or you can simply limit the use cases that this private data can be used for. It also enables internal marketplaces in the region or in individual countries where developers can come in and, as Paul said, innovate based on this technology. And as Emilia mentioned, we also have a lot of experience organizing different types of trainings and courses, which thousands of people so far have passed through, where we can use these approaches to basically transfer the knowledge to the local community of developers so they can actually start building their own applications for their own region's sovereign L1 instead of going to Google's marketplace or whatever.
If I just may jump in, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on what in your books brings more value, or what comes first, regulation or sovereignty when it comes to technology? If you were a government, how would you tackle this one?
Well, that's a good question. I think the problem with the idea of regulation coming first is that usually, first the technology appears, then you see the consequences, then you start regulating. And that is the way it happens with almost any technology. Now, the problem with that approach, of course, is that the consequences are already there. You have to deal with them in parallel. And also, it becomes hard to police or to enforce these new laws. For me, GDPR is problematic, not in its essence, but it is a law that is very hard to enforce because the data itself is on someone else's servers. You have to prove that they are using it for something else, or that they are not collecting it at all, or that they are collecting it but storing it in a GDPR compliant way. So basically, the burden of proof and auditing falls on the government entities to enforce these laws. When you have a technology that embodies these principles about how data is actually stored, how it can be used, etc., the law itself or the concepts that the technology is built on is part of the core protocol. So you do not have to prove how you are storing the data and doing all of these things. You just have to prove that you are using the correct technology that cannot even be used in another way. And from that standpoint, I believe, especially now that we have AI, machine learning, and everything else becoming such a big trend, basically, and being an economic driver for the future, it's going to become more and even more harder to police or to enforce these laws if they are not enforced by the core protocol itself. So I believe that, yes, laws are the guidelines taking you somewhere, but enforcement of the laws without technology itself is going to become impossible in the next few years.
I would also like to add that I think it's one of the big projects that we are also working on now is in a way of a global taxonomy, because there are different terms that are used in different ways in different parts of the world. So, and that's something that's quite challenging because we can talk about tokens and they don't have any kind of connections with cryptocurrencies, or we are not using them in the manner that we are going to put them in an open market. We are just using them in a way to share value and to have some different utility. But at the first beginning of just hearing that word, somebody could have a version for it, or just in their minds they're closing and the option to see what are the potential of it. So I would just like to emphasize that I think that the most important thing is to first and absolutely the first step is to think about the functionality, and then to go into the deeper steps and to see in the details about the regulations and compliances. But the first step should be, is it functional? How does it give us benefits? And then I think from there to make regulations and compliance that it's good for everybody. So that's something that's usually the step that we miss.
Now, talking specifically about layer one solutions, there are a lot of them already in the market. So what will differentiate a new proposition based on everything that you are just sharing now?
I would say that what we are doing and the approach we are both taking and proposing to others is to view blockchain ecosystems as an extension to the existing internet. So the layer one we are proposing and that we are currently also building in Agile Dynamics Tech is going into this direction of being kind of geographically focused on certain areas and making it very safe for them to transact and to be the only basically validator nodes outside of building just a private blockchain for their own country. This makes it easier for everyone to have basically a relayer system in a way, but also it's not a completely public and permissionless blockchain, which is a great concept. I'm not saying it isn't, but it is easier than for the countries in this region to keep it as their own sort of economic digital union instead of making it open for everyone. And I believe that that is the better way for you to reach technology sovereignty that we mentioned. When you look at Ethereum, you know, it is probably the most decentralized system out there with hundreds of thousands of validators, etc. However, on the other hand, about 60% of Ethereum validators are on AWS, which also kind of means that 60% of Ethereum or more is validated by the United States in a way. So when you look at it from this direction, you know, there is always an option for a group of countries to control a big part of the network with permissionless systems. However, if we look at all of this as internet's autonomous zones, and if we look at it from a more traditional telecommunications view, this is probably better for emerging markets because they keep more control over the transactions that are happening, and they can use technologies that can have a much faster execution layer than Ethereum. And then they can, of course, bridge to Ethereum, interact with Ethereum projects and with other blockchain projects, you know, both public and permissionless, and private and permissioned, but the core of the technology and the core of the data stays in the region or in the individual countries, which makes it also much easier for you to be compliant from the perspective of laws and everything else, but also to easily bridge, as mentioned, you know, to other blockchains and other nations.
I would also just like to mention that in this comprehensive study that we did, we compared, we started from 100 different protocols, and then we came to 10 that I would say are the most impactful in the industry. And we compared them by 41 metrics. So you can see there, we are completely aware that the blockchain is technology that's evolving through time. It has its advantages and it has its flaws. And I can say that anybody who can tell you that blockchain is a solution to every problem is just not asking the right questions. So in our case, we are just using all of our expertise, and I can say that the team is conducted with the biggest experts in the field and engineers that build different projects and have many experience with these different outcomes. So we just took all of that, see what's out there, and we are still working on it. So it's the best that we can offer in business and technical sense. Because as I said at the beginning, from one side we can work on a technology and make it better and better by time, because it's getting developed as we speak. But then from the other side, we are also putting a lot of accent on who is going to use it and how are we going to approach those, for starters, emerging markets.
Community is the heart of every layer one out there. How are you planning to involve them? And also, how are you planning to select the validators that are going to be part of your governance model, especially when this is a very sensitive issue in many of the layer ones that are already in the market?
Essentially, we are trying to bring innovation at every level. And again, it's not really going to be a revolutionary innovation. It's more kind of going to be an evolution of things and improving, incrementally. So when it comes to community building, we want to shift the paradigm by building the network of key stakeholders that are large corporates, mainly telecoms, large energy organizations. Why? Because if you look at it from the access perspective, energy companies, they have access to utility. Anybody that wants to benefit and have the electricity, has to be their customer. Same thing with telecoms. So we believe that by putting a value proposition to these stakeholders, we'll be able to shortcut that path, to large communities and make it seamless for them to really onboard without all the complexity that comes with it. So to answer your question, our approach is not going to be driven purely by marketing. It will be a component of the approach to build a community, but not in a traditional Web3 sense. So influencers and the typical social media approaches are taking a backseat in favor of our business model that is based on the very strong footprint of the large corporates. So that's number one. Number two is we are going after the growth markets. So that will give us the opportunity for scale. As Emma and Ivan described, these markets are ripe for transformation, and the population is eager to make the change. And finally, what's really gonna make or break is the value proposition. If you don't put some value on the table for them, if you don't answer that critical question, what's in it for me, nothing else matters. So what we want to achieve is basically have that undeniable, value that will be recognized and ultimately, appreciated, and it will help us scale.
Any future plans that you're able to share with us today that we need to really look after?
I don't know what can we share. Maybe I'll leave it to Paul.
Because I know there's a lot.
Yes.
Sure. I mean, a lot of these projects that we're involved with are kind of spillovers from Agile Dynamics, which is a consultancy. And a lot of these projects are kind of sensitive, and due to the nature of things that we're working with, a high reliability industry, have a very distinct aspect of non-disclosures. But just to kind of paint a big picture, what we are ultimately trying to achieve here is build that critical mass of the key stakeholders in the shape and form of major corporations that recognize the need to build their own. Don't beg for the table, for the chair when you can build a table. That's the slogan that we're trying to use. And ultimately, what's going to come on the back of this approach is layer one that will be built by investors that have to recognize that they will not necessarily own their investment. So there is a bit of a mindset shift that has to take place. But again, most of this stuff is purely business. I would also like my colleagues to share their thoughts in terms of technology. And
I would like to share that you can join our Astro Armadillos group on Discord, because that's something that's quite cute, and I know that we can share that. It doesn't go under disclosure agreement. So yeah, we're planning to release a game who's going to be a lot of fun because it has Armadillos. There's a whole story about it, so you can join the group and follow us there. Everything that's connected to the game that's coming soon. We're also planning Web3 Delight at 2 prime locations, I would say, but I will keep that as a surprise for some time. Also, as Paul said, we are basically working as a consultancy, so anybody who wants to get into the game or is from traditional industry, we have a lot of experience with adopting and introducing the blockchain into the organizations for the first time, because as Paul said, we already did it with huge enterprises and with organizations who are doing tangible work. So when you do that, everything else is honestly much easier. Also, besides that, we are planning to make a lot of useful content. So I would also say that you can follow our LinkedIn or our website, because we are going to put it all out there, because we also believe that it's really important to share. So even the study that I mentioned that was really complicated to produce, you can download it, and we are really open for a discussion. We like to share ideas and knowledge about this. So I would also leave Ivan to say, are we going to make a new rocket, or what's in the plans for us?
Well, yes, I would say that right now we are still very much trying to showcase to the partners that Paul mentioned about what this new technology can do, why this is a superior approach. And most of the work we are currently doing today outside of actually building the layer 1 is also preparing a number of industry-specific case studies. Some of them will be public in the future. Some of them are very reliant on the customer data, so we cannot publish them in that way, but they definitely helped us to choose the right pilot programs that we are going to pilot on blockchain in these corporations, and we hope that soon we will be able to make more announcements about this in terms of actual product launches or about the public news of adding these validators, which we are currently trying to close and negotiate. We will probably not even be able to share all of them even when we close, but we'll have to be doing it over time because of the sensitive nature. However, it is a very exciting journey to be on, and I think it will be something that will roll out extremely interesting projects in the next couple of years.
Amazing. Thank you so much to the Agile Dynamics Tech founding team, and also to everyone who attended to this first webinar, Emerging Markets Unleashed. So there is a huge ecosystem behind Agile Dynamics Tech. Education, Armadillos is an example. Offline events where you can participate, like Web3 Delight, and many other projects that they are going to be disclosing on the following months, weeks. Let's see. The important thing is that you follow us and you also interact, connect with the speakers. If you have questions, feel free to share it with them, and also continue being part of this community, because there are a lot of amazing news that will be out soon. So thank you so much, and also thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mary Angel.
Thank you.
you.
Awesome.